Hey friends, I have a dear friend with me, Lynette Williams, and we have met through a Facebook group, which is always fun to get to connect with people through different avenues and just see what God wants to do with these collaborations. And so, such a fun opportunity to get to connect with Lynette. I've just been edified by her, even in the one conversation we've had. So I can't wait for you guys to meet her and get to hear all about her. She is the owner of Laptop Mommas, and she's going to tell us all about herself, what she does, and how she's gotten to this point. So Lynette, I'll let you take it from
Mhm.
here and tell us a little more about you.
Thanks so much, Whitney. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay. Can I just be completely honest and vulnerable that I hate this part of podcasts? Like, I don't like to talk about myself at all. And I know that sounds weird when you are in a leadership position, right? And you're building a community. But this is just, it's just not fun for me, to talk about myself. But I'll give you a little bit about me. I am a homeschooling mom. I have three girls. I've been married for 19 years, and I've been in the online business space for 7 of those years. The last one calendar year being Laptop Mamas as my rebrand. I came back to work after taking a sabbatical. I was suffering from burnout, which I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to. I thought about quitting, honestly, tried a couple of different side hustles in the meantime, but came back to what I'm doing just because I feel called and led, to be in this space, to be a light for others, to serve Christian moms who, struggle in the same ways that I've struggled. And that's really what it's about for me is not leaving them hanging, but being a light for them.
It's so interesting to me how things come full circle, right? Like you see it in the Bible, like Abraham, God brought him back to the same place. Jacob, he brought him back around, like there's these Ebenezers, if you will. And I feel like in my own business journey and talking with other entrepreneurs, it's just, there's the vision and then there's a little bit of distraction that we get a little off base from the vision at times. And God's like, okay, let's come back around. Let's get back to the root of your calling because that's not going to change. And so that's really fun to see how over the 7 years, like it's evolved and maybe God has given you different tools in your toolkit, but it's come back to this same vision that you started with.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened. I learned new things, I gained new skills, and then he was like, "Okay, I want you to now go in this direction and do something you've never done before." And again, just another year of learning and gaining new skills, and now I feel like I'm pivoting, but it really does in a lot of ways feel like I'm coming back home.
Yeah.
Like, but I've expanded, right? I have so much more knowledge, I have so many more tools. I now see why he had me go about it in this way, right? And what his plan was with sort of piecing it out. Everybody's walk with the Lord is different. I know, I have friends whose relationship with him is different than mine as far as what he reveals to them up front versus along the way. For me, he really just gives me one step at a time. And as long as I'm obedient with that step, then I get the next step. And so it's really grown my faith because I have to trust in him, knowing the beginning from the end, when really all I can see is the present and where I'm at right now. And that took a lot of courage and that took a lot of faith for me to get to that place of trusting. But now that I'm there, as like I said, as I go and as I continue to be obedient with the step that he's given me, it starts to make sense. I can look and see like, oh, okay, this is why you had me like what feels like, going off trajectory, but really it was to build up something in me and then now we're coming back to where it all began, really.
Yeah. I love that. It's all a journey. I get tripped up on that sometimes, right? Like I want the big picture vision and sometimes I get the big picture vision, but I have a really hard time then wanting to take the next step because it's like, "Oh, but I'm trying to get here." And he's like, "Whitney, I just need you to take this one step. Can we bring it back to this level? Like the vision is so that you have clarity to move, but
Right.
the next step in front of you is like the step to be obedient." But I think, and you talk a lot about this, I think you mentioned that perfectionism is a spiritual disguise of selfishness. And I
Yes.
think that can oftentimes be what gets me tripped up. And I don't think I'm alone in that. is, I want things to be perfect to roll them out. I want to have excellence in everything that I do. And that's not a problem, but the
Right.
perfectionism cycle is. So can you talk to me a little bit more about what has that journey been like and how do you help people overcome perfectionism?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like you were saying to me earlier about the reframe, right? And so, with every mindset shift, with every transformation, it begins with that reframe, right? And so, for me, it was that realization that perfectionism was holding me back. But it was easier for me to let go of it when I reframed it as being selfish because that is definitely not something that I want to be, right? Because as most service providers and coaches, when you're in that space, you tend to be more heart centered. You tend to operate from that gift of acts of service, right? Which is one of my love languages. And so selfishness just does not fit that. It doesn't fit the mold. It doesn't fit the brand. It doesn't fit anything, right? And so, again, I had to reframe it in my mind in order to basically cut it off, lay it at the altar at the feet of Jesus, receive from him what he wanted me to carry and let that go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what made it possible for me, right? Was that reframe. And so I let that go. And now I see how much more progress I make day to day, week to week, month to month when I just let good enough be good enough, right? When I just do something to about 85% and then I put it out there, right? Like my website wasn't 100% done. I started blogging before that they were perfect. They're still not perfect. I always joke that my blogs seriously like need CPR, like they are on life support. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I know that it's necessary for Google to do that, right? So it's like I can always go back and tweak them and make them better. So it's like whatever area that is in your business that, you're like, I'm having to resuscitate it because right now it's just pitiful. Like it will get better, right? It will get better. But I always say, I tell my clients, I tell my students, it is so much easier to improve on something than nothing. So you can, keep your course in Canva, right? You can keep your designs hidden away until they're perfect. That's just an example, right? But then they never get out there. And you never know, they'll never be good enough in your mind to share. And then you don't really ever make true progress, right?
Yeah.
So for whoever's listening, I just want to encourage you, put something out there. If you have an idea, let it manifest into something physical or digital, right? But let it manifest and then take a look at it and see how you can improve it.
Yeah. That's so good because I don't think I'm alone in getting tripped up over wanting it to be perfect, but like grow and iterate, adapt, like all of that is part of the entrepreneurial process, but just getting it out there so that you can get feedback, you can get clarity. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard, right? Like I spun out for a couple of weeks after launching a product and getting feedback that like, hey, this is really great, but it's not resonating with my current audience. And so it's like, okay, well, that could be great for a new audience, but and that feedback helped me. And it was terrifying to put it out there. It was hard to get that feedback, thinking this is really what I thought was going to hit what I was trying to achieve. And then realizing, okay, that was a miss. But
Mm-hmm.
like everything else, nothing is wasted in God's kingdom, right? It's like, okay, well,
Right.
this is to serve somebody. I just have to find this somebody for this. It's already built. It's already ready. It just isn't evolution of my plans, right? Like I didn't see it going that way. But if I never launched it and just waited for perfectionism and waited for all the feedback, I would have missed even getting to hear that and adapt and find what it's meant to serve, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you said that, how nothing is wasted in God's kingdom, because that is so, so true. I love that.
Well, there was something else you mentioned too about breaking perfectionism patterns and embracing perfectly imperfect visibility. I
Oh, yeah.
love that. This is a random story. Years ago, I was at the beach and I saw this beautiful seashell on like just peeking out of the sand near the water. And I went to go pick it up and I picked it up and it looked like it was hidden in the sand. It wasn't, it was broken. It was just sitting there. And I felt like
Mm,
when I picked it up, the Lord was like, this is perfectly imperfect. Like you saw the perfection of it. You saw it. You went to it. You grabbed it. And then when you picked it up, it was like, oh, this isn't everything I thought it was going to be, but it doesn't diminish the beauty of what I saw in it. Right. And so, how do we create this perfectly imperfect visibility for ourselves as entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so you have to, again, just be comfortable with putting yourself out there. And it's not about people pleasing, right? That's going to be difficult because a lot of times when we hold ourselves back because of performance anxiety, it's because we're afraid of people's reaction, right? We're afraid of that vulnerability. It scares us. So, again, taking the time to seek the Lord in prayer, have Him renew and refresh you. What helps me the most was reading the Bible and coming to that verse in Jeremiah 1:5, where the Lord says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you and I gave you a purpose, right? And that changed everything for me because I was like, you're right. Like, He has a plan for us, for our lives. He knows the plans that He has for us, right? To give us a future and a hope and all good things. Who am I
Mm.
to interrupt His plan? Who am I to say no for whatever reason I can come up with? Who am I? Who do I think I am? Right? And that was just like what I needed. That's what I needed to hear. And that was the revelation and the realization that God showed me in His word to give me the confidence to step out, not because I'm perfect, not because I have all of the answers, right? But simply because He has called me to it. And I have to trust that He not only has the vision, but He's also going to be the provision,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's really what it came down to for me.
Yeah, that's so good. I have to trust, what did you say? Not just for the vision, but for the
Right. The
provision. Like,
provision.
He's going to
Yes.
provide for the vision He gives
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Oof. That's great. Well, to that point of like His provision, I know some of that is, hey, I'm giving you the step, walk in obedience, walk faithfully, and trust me with the results. That's something He's been teaching me a lot in this season. Like, I don't produce the results, I produce the action, right? And faith is an action, it's constantly active. But to that end, one of the things that I think keeps us bound in the lie of the enemy is like, there's not enough, right? And so, whether that be not being able to see God's provision, or in the idea of sales and trying to show up in this world, and create provision, right? How do we do that in a way? I know you're working on a course about sales. So
Yeah.
how can we show up as believers in an authentic way, to create visibility, but also to sell in a way that doesn't feel, I guess, cringy, for lack of a better word?
Right, right. Well, I always say that everything works, every strategy works, right? But every strategy doesn't work for everyone. And this, again, it's so funny how you have so many symptoms, but the root cause is almost always the same, right? So when you're afraid of selling, when you are stuck in this pattern of people pleasing, right? It really all comes down to the same root. And so we just see it sort of surface in different ways. We get triggered when we need to take an action that signals to our nervous system like, hey, this is scary, I don't want to do this, right? And that's where distractions come up, that's where procrastination comes up, resistance, right? All kinds of things. And so for me personally, it was also around sales. I love people. I love talking to people. I love helping people. I hate selling to people. And I'm just going to be completely honest. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And so I knew that in order to scale and grow my business, I have to overcome whatever my personal blocks are with selling, right? And so that's how I got started with this journey. I literally created, it was like a very short little PDF guide. It was like a sales checklist almost, right? Like the steps and the actions and all the things. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, but this it's all well and good to have the strategy. It's all well and good to have the steps and what to do and you'll get the results. But it doesn't work if you still have that fear. It
Yeah.
doesn't work if it feels unsafe, right? And so I had to dig deeper and I said, okay, what about this feels unsafe, right? Like, what about the vulnerability feels unsafe? And what it always comes back to is lies that we are believing. Somewhere along the way, we have been listening to the enemy. We have bought into the lies that he's telling us. And because of that, our identity has now been broken, right? Not that you're broken, but the way that you view yourself. And the value that you put on your identity has been shattered by lies. And so the first thing that you need to do is, like always say, I feel like a broken record, but you've got to get into the word. You have got to get into the word. You need to be aware of the lies that you're believing. You need to identify those lies. And then you need to search scripture for God's truth that speaks directly to that lie. Just think of it as medicine, right? I mean, I've heard this, I can't remember where I heard it said, but I've heard it said, that Advil and arsenic both start with A, right? But you don't want to take the wrong one, right? When you're sick. And so with scripture, it's so important to find those specific verses that speak life and truth and heal the lie that you're believing, right? And so again, this is very deep inner healing work, and it really is specific to the individual person. Like I shared with you Jeremiah 1:5, how it spoke to me and brought me out of hiding,
Yeah.
right? To seek a solution for sales, because I said, I'm not going to tell God no. I'm not going to rebel against my God. I love him so much, right? And so that pushed me. So it's like, again, identifying the lie and then finding the scripture that's going to heal that, so then you can take action, right? And it's very specific and unique to each individual.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. There's a book by John Acuff that's called Soundtracks. And it talks a lot about like rewriting the negative, like the lies that we're believing or the negative thought patterns and creating these new ones. And I think that that's an important part of repetition, of overcoming the lies, is like to find the truth that resonates, but then to put it somewhere where you're constantly reaffirming that truth over your lie or over yourself, because the lies of the enemy just keep coming back, right? Like they don't stop. It's a constant beratement of, and it comes in similar messaging and packaging, and yet at the same time, different sneaky ways that you're like, oh, wait, hold on. I know where this is. Now I need to go grab the truth to combat that. But it takes being able to have the truth sewn into you and then having it somewhere where you can easily grab it to pull that and fight against the lies of the enemy.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. This is so good. Well, what is a fear or limiting belief or obstacle you've had to overcome? I mean, it sounds like sales is one of those things, but
Sure.
what are some other things that maybe you've had to wrestle through in this journey? And what are some ways that you would recommend entrepreneurs to work through that or overcome it?
Right. So, well, perfectionism was a huge, huge one for me, right? Fear of visibility. I mean, there's so many times once you start opening up, it's like an onion, right? There's just
Yeah.
layers and layers and layers, and you got to keep digging deep. And so for me, it was a cluster of all of those things, right? And so I learned that, okay, certain actions are going to feel scarier than others. Why is that, right? What does that look like? And why am I feeling these things? And so through taking the time to really sit and process and study the word and look at scripture, but also allowing scripture to read you, right? I always say, like, you're reading it, but it's also reading you. Being honest with yourself when you feel that conviction from God, that you need to be doing better, then you got to step up and do the work, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes so much easier to apply the tactics, right? And so I have a little PDF that I keep on my desk every day that I pray through, that really for me addresses the performance anxiety, the vulnerability, the perfectionism, and I make sure to pray through that document every day before I start working, just to get my mind right, get my heart right, remind myself of the truth, because like you said, the enemy is always trying to bombard our mind with lies, right? But if I hadn't done the work to get to that place where I'm at now, just having a checklist, right, and a print off isn't going to do the healing for you, if that makes sense,
Sure.
right? But it's what makes it possible to maintain and sustain your healing and continue walking that path once you've really just laid it all out before the Lord, right? There's just no easy, gentle way about it. I have been in business a long time, and I can tell you I resisted mindset work. I resisted doing the inner healing, and I ran after strategy, strategy, strategy because I just wanted to get to the next level in my business. I just wanted to make more money. I was stuck in that if then paradox, right?
Mm.
Like, or when then, however you want to put it, right? Like, when I have X amount of dollars, then I'll do something else, right? Or if I can just make this happen, then. And that it never works that way. You never get to the then. You never get there because you're not applying a biblical, you know, a biblical worldview. You're just hustling. And hustling is what got me burned out twice.
Yeah.
Hustling made me, for a season, not even love what I was doing anymore, And I'm so thankful that the Lord renewed my heart and he renewed my mind and got me back to a place where I'm just like, no, this is what I really love. I just wasn't serving from a place of love before. I was serving from a place of fear before. And now I'm serving from a place of love, and it's completely different. It feels different. Um, yeah, there's just so many beautiful things that are coming now into my life, into my business that I wouldn't have even experienced before. And I know I wouldn't have because of the inner healing, right? And the work that I've done on myself. So much more creativity. And it doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels expansive, right? So, of
Mm.
course, there's a little bit of this is outside of my comfort zone, but it's still so exciting, and it's still something that you can't let go of, right? It's like it may not feel like completely comfortable, but yet you know that you have to do it. It's a completely different sensation, right? It's not something that makes you want to crawl back. It's something that's like, okay, let's go out there and just see what happens. And so, just to give you like an example that's a little bit more concrete, I recently purchased a low ticket course for AI photos. Now, I'm not like a huge AI person. I actually was somebody who was like, I don't know if this is even for Christians. Like, should we be doing this type of thing for a long time, right? But here's what I didn't expect when I got into this course. I didn't expect it to break something off of me that healed me in a way that I didn't even realize I needed it, right? I have forever, I've been married for, going on almost half my life. I've been spending so much of my time day in and day out taking care of my kids that my identity just became so absorbed into them that I had kind of lost a part of myself. And it's the craziest thing, but I started having so much fun making these pictures and taking pictures of myself around the world, basically living my dream.
Mm.
My dream life was coming true in these photos. And when I was seeing myself doing all of these things, I know I'm getting emotional, it's crazy, but it changed me. It changed me. And I I I can't go back. I
Yeah.
can't go back. I won't go back. And I won't apologize for it either. And again, that may not be what somebody else needs, right? But it's what I needed. It's
Mhm.
what I needed. And I know that it is because it's not what I quote unquote paid for, right? I got what I paid for. And then this just ginormous transformation and healing occurred for me when I saw myself as not just a mom, as not just a wife, but an individual. And, I think somewhere along the way, I had just lost sight of my dreams. You know, I had forgotten what I really, really wanted in life. And so when I manifested it in a way that I could see it and it became real, I can hardly look at these photos without crying and getting emotional because it's like I'm living my best life,
Mm.
right? I'm living my best life, and it is me because the transformation and the change that it's bringing out of me is so real. if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is so real. And so sometimes you never know what is going to be the catalyst to your healing. And it is not a straight road, right? It's not a straight road, and it's really hard, and it can be really uncomfortable sometimes. And I know I'm not selling it at all. But here's the thing. It's so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful because when God sets you free, you are free indeed. When you are healed, and you are forever changed. And I would not give up the way that I love myself now and the way I see myself now, right? And the confidence that I have now. I would not give that up for anything. And, the internet could go down tomorrow and I could lose access to those photos, but I cannot lose access to what it has given me, right? In terms of that confidence and that freedom and the letting go of that fear of being seen, right? And the people pleasing. And I know that it has done those things for me because even when people say to me, "Oh, I don't like that photo. Oh, that's, something whatever," and they criticize it or they put it down or something, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And so sometimes you don't even know that you've healed from something until you recognize and realize like, "Hey, normally that comment or feeling like I didn't impress everybody," like you were saying with your course, like when you realize you're not people pleasing anymore and it's not about them anymore, it's like, wow, wow, like that is priceless. It's priceless. And sometimes you just need that confirmation and that validation that, hey, you've actually healed. Hey, you've actually grown from this. So I spent $24 on that course, and I'm telling you, uh, knowing what I know now, I would spend thousands to feel this way.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the best decision and the best investment I ever made. And again, that's just me and that's just my experience. You and your audience, it may be something else different, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It doesn't have to necessarily be something that's going to be obvious to you that you're going to get all of this from, right? It totally surprised me. It totally blew me away. But you know what else? I'm not the only one who's had this experience,
Yeah.
right? So many of us who have bought this course have experienced the same thing, that it even made the owner of it like, wow, I didn't even realize that this was going to be a movement in visibility and vulnerability and freedom and confidence. She's like, I thought we were just doing AI photos. So it surprised her too. So you
Yeah.
never know what it's going to be, right? But it's just truly the most beautiful thing. And so I like to say and share this tagline that healing looks good on you. Like it just does. Healing just looks good on you. It feels good. It's like finding the right pair of shoes they're just so cute and they're on sale. And not only do they fit, but they're comfortable. That's what healing is like to me.
It's a dream.
It is. It's a dream come true. It's a dream
Yeah.
come true. Like
Yeah.
literally, um, living my best life. My AI twin is living her best life, and it brings me so much joy to sit and create those things. It feels very creative, just like if I was doing something in Canva or whatever, right? It's very creative. And it's also opened up my creativity in other ways. Like I recently started songwriting, and I'm thinking to myself, who even am I? I don't even know anymore who I am, because I am just like outgrowing. It's like, like a hermit crab outgrows its shell. I feel like I am outgrowing myself, and I am surprising myself now every day with things that I just pick up and start doing that I never would have considered doing before out of fear,
Yeah.
right? And now I'm writing songs. And just the other day on Facebook, somebody heard one of my songs and she was like, I'm a worship leader. I want to sing your songs. So now I'm going to have an actual human singing my songs because I don't sing. I can write them, but I don't sing. And so, it's like, wow, it's just incredible. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll be a legitimate songwriter, producer, and you'll be hearing, my songs on the radio, on the Christian radio station. And that would be another dream come true,
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's something the Lord's really been teaching me a lot is the one step in front of you is all you see. That's what you're trying to cling to, right? But I have so much more beyond this one thing you can see. So I want to give you immeasurably more, and you're white knuckling the one thing in front of you out of fear that if it's not perfect, or what if it stops here? What if this is as good as it gets? And it's like, no, there is limitless opportunities in God's kingdom. We don't have to be worried about, launching this platform. Did I think it was maybe my silver bullet that was going to make the money that I needed to support everything? Like, yeah, I had some hopes in that. But you know what? I did it. Maybe it produces something, maybe it doesn't. But I love what you were talking about because it's like, man, this one dream that somebody put out into the world is unleashing other people to pursue things that they never knew they had in them because it unlocks something. And there's a quote that's something like, what you're called to do might be the thing that somebody is praying for right now. And the enemy wants to keep us trapped and stuck in the lie of, you failed. This isn't good enough. And it's like, no, maybe this is for one person. Maybe it's for 1,000 people or beyond, but it unlocks something in you to then do other things more courageously and more boldly for the kingdom because it's like, oh, I did this. And you know what? I didn't die. It didn't end here. There's still limitless
Exactly.
possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. So yeah, I mean, I feel like my whole testimony is, and especially with business, is just, hey, I learned in the fire
Yep.
alongside everybody else. It was hard, but I didn't quit. Right. I paused a couple times. I took steps back, but I kept coming back because this is just what God has called me to, and this is what he's led me to, and I'm not gonna quit. I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna figure it out,
Yeah.
right? But I'm enjoying it way more now, being on the other side of healing than trying to force it, being unhealed. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not fun. That's just not fun, and it's not helpful, and it's not a good way to do business. It's just not. And so another aspect and layering of that healing when we're talking about fear and perfectionism and vulnerability and imposter syndrome, is really validation, is really approval.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the biggest reframe for me was shifting approval from people to God. And I already have
Mhm.
that. That's the beautiful part is he already approves you because he's given you the assignment. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know? And just like knowing that I have God's approval, like you're doing it for him. You're doing it for him and you're doing it for the people, like you said, the people that are praying for you, the people that are praying for you. So you can't worry about the haters. I always say that haters are just fans with potty mouths, you know? You are going to encounter them on your journey, on your path as you grow and you up level because w- they're just being triggered by what they're not allowing themselves to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's how they project. But they're the ones keeping themselves small. You don't have to apologize to them for growing and for developing and for becoming, right? Who God has called you to be. You don't owe anybody an apology, and you sure as heck don't need anybody's permission but God's.
Yeah. Yeah. I think going back to what you said earlier of the if then, I think we get trapped in that. That's kind of a limiting mindset. It's like if then, but then if becomes what if? What
Mm,
if? And then I don't even get to the then because I'm tripping up over the if to begin with. What if? But it's to your point when you walk through the process of healing, or I've said this with a girlfriend, we've been talking about just hard things in our lives that the Lord's asked us to both to walk through. And we've lost friendships, we've lost other things through the process. And I keep saying, you don't go through the refiner's fire without being permanently changed, right? Like you can't go back once you've experienced the refiner's fire. You can't go back to how life was. You just have to press through it and let the things go that you have to. But then you get to live in this fullness and richness of who God is and that identity.
yeah,
And I think that's
it's so
exactly
true.
what you're saying.
It's
Yeah.
so true. Like, it's ever since I have started using the AI photos and really started shifting and changing and just becoming like so bold and so authoritative, like where I even am like, who am I? What is happening? Like I am really pushing some boundaries here and staying and doing things that I never would have said and done before. Yeah, I've lost friends. Yeah, people are just like, you've changed. I don't know. I can't go any further with you. And you know what? A week ago, a month ago, a year ago, that would have devastated me and would have given me pause and would have made me stop. But now, honestly, in this moment today, I can tell you it's a blessing. It's a blessing. And there's a freedom on the other side that you can't even imagine until you just let go and let God. Right. And that's where I am. And I have learned, just like Paul says, I have learned to thrive whether my conditions are, subpar or I'm actually, in the lap of luxury. That's not what it's about. But it's about having that confirmation in your calling and that confidence in who God made you, right? Who God made you. And sometimes we look in the mirror and we don't see the person that God created, right? We see our flaws, we see our mistakes, we see our guilt, we see our shame, but that's not our identity. That's not our identity. That is a lie from the enemy that tells you that your value and your worth is somehow attached to your performance. And that's just simply not true because Jesus thinks that you're priceless. He thinks you're worth dying for. So whose opinion are you really going to listen to more? Your own opinion, the world's opinion, or God's opinion? Ultimately, the choice is up to you. But, it's going to be a rough, lonely, sad existence if you keep listening to yourself and you keep listening to the world instead of God.
Yeah, I think that's something too I've wrestled through of, having experiencing rejection
Yeah.
and struggling in that and being like, Lord, why is this not happening? Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, experiencing the freedom of him saying, Whitney, they can't go where you're going. So
Mhm.
where I'm leading you, they can't go. The perceived rejection is my divine protection to make sure that you stay the
Exactly.
course to where you're headed. But then I have to zoom out, right? And go, wait, hold on. The world's not against me. I have all of these people in my corner who believe in me, who are ready for me to reach my full potential because they see it in me. But the enemy gets me so small-minded and fixated on like this one category of like, oh, but this isn't happening. And it's like, Whitney, when are you going to realize this is my protection for you? I just need you to walk in obedience and realize there's this whole group of people who are ready to support you and champion you. And like, there's this fullness waiting for you and abundance of life and my gifts and my purpose for you. But we get so fixated on just the one segment
Oh,
of people pleasing and the performance and identity issues.
oh, yeah. I mean, it's easy to, you think that your people are the people that are in front of you right now, the people that are already currently in your space, right? You have to realize that your people are the ones that God is calling you to serve, the ones that He is calling you to lead. You may not have even met them yet, right? And so I firmly believe that if your people can't love you through your expansion and through your growth in the messy middle when you're figuring it out and maybe you might make some mistakes, you may not be perfect, you're just figuring it out, like I said, right? If they can't love you through that and they can't support you because of their own limiting beliefs, because of their own fears, they're not your people. They're just not your people, right? And I saw this thing on Facebook the other day. It was a music artist who also makes Christian music. So I started following them because now all of a sudden I'm making Christian music. It's so crazy, y'all. But so I'm following her and she was talking about that, how like when people say they hate my music, and they don't like me or whatever, she was like, I consider myself to be in good company with Jesus and Paul. And I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, you're right. Because who are we as human beings who are sinners, right? We're not unlike anybody else in this world. Who are we to think that we are above rejection, right? Or too good to not be liked? I mean, people actually didn't like Jesus. It's crazy to me. It blows my mind when I read the scriptures and I get to the gospels and people rejected him and they hated him and I'm just like, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
So if it can happen to him, it can happen to you. And especially if it happens because you're a Christian, especially if it happens because of your faith, consider that a blessing. Consider that a blessing because you're getting rewards in heaven for that trial and that tribulation that you're going through in his name, right?
Yeah.
And even if it's just something that's just happening to you personally, again, take comfort in knowing that it happened to Jesus and you are in good company.
This is so good. I feel like we could camp out on this all day and just continue to unpack the goodness of God and living
Yes.
in fullness of identity. Because man, that has just been somewhere He has worked on me for so long, and I think it's going to be a lifelong process. But for sure, has just been wrecking my misinformed identity and the lies of the enemy that I've tied myself to. And so I love all of this that you're unpacking. So if people want to continue the conversation with you, they want to stay in touch with you, how would be the best ways to stay connected with you?
Yeah, so I'm just on Facebook, honestly. That's the only social media platform I'm on. You can find me at Lynette Laptop Mommas. It's Mommas, or you can go to my website, laptopmommas.com.
Awesome. Any other last things that we didn't cover that you wish we had, or advice you want to give entrepreneurs before we wrap up?
Oh man. Well, like you said, we could talk forever about the goodness of God and like identity and healing and all those things because that's literally been the game changer for me, right? So I just want to encourage whoever's listening to to get some healing, right? To do the work. Don't be afraid of it. Even if it means that you got to go get an Airbnb and take 3 or 4 days away from the world, away from social media to just spend time with God so that nobody has to see you ugly cry or eat a whole pint of ice cream and not brush your hair. Like who cares, right? Do what you have to do to get healed because when you come back, you're going to impact the kingdom. Like your service has eternal influence and eternal consequences, right? And why would you give that up for a lie? I
Mm,
mean, that's not even that's just a no-brainer to me.
yeah. Yeah, that's one of the compelling things for me in the brand of Emboldened for my company. I keep going back to the First Corinthians 12:12. Like we each have a role to play in the body. And it's like, man, imagine your senses being off, right? That makes life a lot harder. And it's like when somebody's not showing up equipped in the body of Christ, we're all missing out. We're not
Yes.
functioning the way we can. And so it's like we
Yes.
need everybody living into their emboldened purpose, being healed and ready to take the calling God's put on their lives, their Ephesians 2:10 calling, right? Like He prepared works in advance for us to do. And so it's like we have to ready everybody and unleash them and like find this boldness, not of ourselves. Like that goes back to the identity work, right? But like once we have the fullness of God as our identity, then the ways that we get to live out this world and usher forth worship music and big
Mhm.
dreams we didn't even know we had. It's like it is literally limitless. And it's incredible that we get to be part of the kingdom work and we get to show up and bless the world around us in ways that we would never dream possible.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how it works.
Yeah. This has been incredible. We may have to do another one because I'm like, once you launch your sales class, we need to like talk all things sales and just continue
Ooh,
to talk about identity and sales and how those go together because that's a whole other can of worms we can spend hours unpacking. But I really appreciate you being a guest and sharing your insights and helping us wrestle with the fullness of identity today. So thank you so much. And y'all go check her out. Be sure to connect and follow along because I've benefited from your social media posts and I know other people will as well.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's so sweet. I'd be happy to come back and talk about sales another time, because that's deep. That's deep, and that's unpacking a whole nother layer of kingdom work,
Yeah,
right? So yeah, so let's do it.
awesome. We'll have to circle back to that once you launch your course. Well, thanks so much.